Hello, and now we're on day 2 of our reflection on the birth of Christ here during the third week of Advent as we continue our rejoicing as we're getting closer to Christmas Day and the conclusion of our Advent season. Today I want to look at Luke's Gospel, chapter 2, verse 3. And it's a very simple verse, but I think it says a lot in here, okay? So the verse is, after they had to go to the census, it said, all went to be enrolled, each in his own city. Now, the Holy Family had to go to the city of Bethlehem, as we all know. And I had a chance to actually go to Bethlehem when I went to the Holy Land several years ago. And it's very powerful because when you go in the Church of the Nativity, there's a spot there in the church that you can go to and actually touch where Christ was born. It's very special. It's like he really came into the world here in the city of Bethlehem. And Joseph went there because that's his family line. He's descended of the line of David, as we'll continue to read tomorrow about. But he was born but that's in the city of Bethlehem. And Bethlehem itself means house of bread, which now brings us to our reflection today. Jesus was born in the city called the house of bread. We also call Jesus the bread of life, right? It's where we get our understanding of the Eucharist from too. He's the bread of life. At the Last Supper, he broke the bread and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take this, all of you, eat of it, for this is my body, which is given up for you." So Jesus, as the bread of life, gives of himself, the bread from heaven, to all of us so we may have eternal life in us. That's what the Eucharist is. That bread that came down from heaven, who is Jesus Christ himself, who was born in the house of bread. So at this very moment, the Gospel of Luke is pointing to him being born in Bethlehem, which is pointing to the reality that he is the bread of life, that we feed on to have eternal life. It's not a coincidence that Bethlehem was the place he was born. So that brings us to our reflection today. If Jesus was born in the house of bread and is the bread of life, and we receive that on Sundays when we come to Mass, does it change us? Do we see Jesus truly present there, the one who is the bread of life coming into our lives? Or is it just us coming up in the communion line and we just kind of do it because everybody else is doing it, and we receive our host because everybody else is doing it, and we sit down and we don't think another thing of it? Or does it truly penetrate every aspect of our lives that changes us? Because that's the importance of Jesus being called the bread of life and us receiving communion. It's meant to change us. It's meant to have a dramatic impact on us in our lives, just like his birth is supposed to. So maybe reflect on that. How do we approach communion? How do we approach the Eucharist? Do we truly see the bread of life coming into our world? Or do we see it as something else? I hope your Advent reflections continue to be blessed.